Freya was just a teenager when she fell in love for the first time. It all started in her second year of high school when she met Owen. He wasn't just any boy. He was the star of the soccer team. With his quick smile, confident voice, and the way he lit up a room, he made Freya feel special. To her, he wasn't just a handsome face. He was someone who seemed to truly understand her. Freya had always been quiet and thoughtful, the kind of girl who daydreamed while looking out the classroom window. But Owen noticed her in a way no one else did. They started talking after school, sitting under trees, or walking around their neighborhood for hours. Their conversations were full of dreams. They spoke about leaving town, moving into a small apartment, maybe even starting a business together. It wasn't just teenage talk for Freya. She believed every word. She thought they would build a future, side by side. To her, it felt like the kind of love that would last forever. But life doesn't always go the way we plan. After graduation, everything began to change. Summer slowly turned into fall, and Owen started acting different. He wasn't texting as much. Their long walks stopped. Even when they met, he seemed distant, always talking about college and the future, but not their future anymore. Instead, he spoke about getting into top universities, like Georgetown or Stanford. One chilly afternoon, as golden leaves fell around them, they went for a walk near the park. Freya could feel it coming. Her heart was heavy. Then Owen stopped. Walking, shoved his hands in his jacket pockets, and said something she'll never forget. "Freya, we need to talk." Her heart dropped. She knew that tone. He wouldn't look at her. He kicked at the gravel path as he spoke. "I've got big plans," he said. Us, it doesn't fit anymore. I need to focus on my goals. And this relationship, it's holding me back." Freya froze. His words hit her like a punch in the stomach. "Holding you back," she whispered, barely able to speak. "I thought we were in this together. You promised." "I know what I said," Owen replied, "but things change. I've made up my mind." And just like that, he turned around and walked away. Freya stood there, tears in her eyes, watching his blue jacket disappear into the distance. He never looked back. Her chest ached with a deep, hollow pain. The dreams they had shared were gone, thrown away like they meant nothing. She stayed in that park for a long time, her thoughts spinning, her heart breaking. In the days that followed, things got worse. Freya felt sick often, missed her period, and her heart began to fear what her mind already suspected. She quietly bought a pregnancy test and took it alone in the upstairs bathroom. She waited, heart racing. 2 pink lines. Pregnant at just 17, Freya didn't know what to do. She sat at the kitchen table, holding the test in her shaking hands. Her heart pounded. Her mother called from the kitchen. "Dinner's ready." Her voice was cheerful, unaware of the storm that was about to hit. Freya tucked the test into her pocket and walked to the dining room. Her father was reading the newspaper. Her mother was serving food. The smell of meatloaf and gravy filled the air. A normal family evening. But this night would change everything. "I need to talk to you," Freya said, her voice barely more than a whisper. Her father looked up over his glasses. "What's going on?" Freya took a deep breath and said the words she'd been dreading. "I'm pregnant." The room fell silent. Her mother dropped the spoon, splattering gravy across the table. Her father's face turned red with anger. The newspaper slammed onto the table. "Pregnant?" her mother cried. "How could you do this? You've disgraced us." Her father stood up, his fists clenched. "Is it that Owen boy? Did he do this and leave?" "He's gone," Freya replied, tears in her eyes. "But I can handle it. I'll take care of the baby." Her mother shouted, "You're only 17. You can't raise a child." Her father's voice was like a knife. "You're not raising that baby under my roof. Get out." Freya's legs went weak. "You're kicking me out. I'm your daughter." "Not anymore," her father said coldly. Freya ran to her room, sobbing. She grabbed her duffel bag and started packing clothes. With trembling hands, she took the photo of her and Owen and stuffed it in the side pocket. Every corner of her room screamed of the life she was being forced to leave behind. She looked around one last time, then stepped out of the house, the cold air hitting her face like a slap. Alone, heartbroken, pregnant, but she wasn't giving up. She remembered someone who once said, "You'll always have a place here," her grandmother. Freya had nowhere else to go. The home she once felt safe in had shut its doors on her. Her father's final words, "Get out," echoed in her mind like thunder. As she stood on the cold sidewalk with her bag slung over her shoulder, she felt lost. But then a memory came to her, the comforting voice of her grandmother Elena. "You'll always have a place here." Freya didn't hesitate. She pulled out her phone and called the only person who had never judged her. The phone rang once, then twice, before her grandmother answered with her familiar, rough but warm voice. "Freya." "What's wrong, sweetheart?" Freya could barely speak through her tears. "Grandma, I need to come stay with you. Please, can I come now?" There was no pause, no question. "Of course you can, darling. Just get here safe. I'll put the kettle on." Those simple words were the first light in Freya's darkest moment. She took the next bus to Springfield, where her grandmother lived in a small brick house with a sagging porch and a garden that somehow bloomed even in winter. The ride took 2 hours, but Freya barely noticed the time. Her mind was spinning with fear, sadness, and confusion. Would she be okay? Could she really do this alone? When she arrived, the porch light was glowing like a beacon. Elena stood in the doorway, wrapped in a faded robe, silver hair pulled back in a bun, her arms open wide. Without saying a word, Elena pulled her into a hug. It wasn't soft, but it was strong, solid like the kind of love that doesn't fade. Freya sobbed into her grandmother's shoulder, and Eleanor just held her. Inside, the house was small, but full of life. It smelled of old wood, tea leaves, and something sweet, like cinnamon. There were shelves lined with mismatched teacups, and soft jazz playing on the radio. The couch sagged from years of use, and the walls were decorated with family photos and handmade quilts. Elena guided Freya to the couch and handed her a warm cup of tea. "Now," she said, settling beside her, "tell me everything." Freya's hands trembled as she spoke. "They kicked me out. Mom called me a disgrace. Dad said I ruined everything." Her voice cracked. "I'm pregnant, Grandma. I don't know what to do." Elena didn't interrupt. She just listened. Her wrinkled hands folded in her lap, her face calm. When Freya finished, Elena reached over and placed a firm hand on her shoulder. "People say foolish things when they're scared," Elena said, her voice low and steady. "But a baby isn't a disgrace. It's a blessing. Always." Freya's eyes filled with tears again. "But I'm 17. Owen's gone. My parents hate me. How am I supposed to raise a baby?" "You're not alone," Elena replied, her tone suddenly sharp, the kind that woke Freya from her spiral. "You have me. We'll manage together, one step at a time." That night, Freya slept in her childhood room at Elena's house, the one with the faded floral curtains and the old wooden bed that creaked. It wasn't perfect, but it was safe. For the first time in days, she slept without fear. The following days were quiet. Freya helped Elena around the house, watering the garden and washing dishes. They didn't talk about the pregnancy every hour. Instead, they just lived. They had breakfast together. They laughed over old stories. Slowly, Freya's heart began to heal. The baby growing inside her still scared her, but she also began to feel a strange kind of love, a love she hadn't expected. Some mornings, she'd rest her hand on her stomach and whisper, "We're going to be okay." She started going to the clinic in town, where the nurses were kind and respectful. She read books Elena gave her about babies and birth. She started writing in her journal again, filling pages with thoughts and hopes she hadn't dared to share with anyone. As her belly grew, so did her strength. One night, while sitting on the couch drinking tea, Elena looked at her and said, You remind me a lot of your mother. Stubborn, strong, but you've got more heart." Freya smiled faintly. "I hope I can be a good mom." "You already are," Elena said. "You chose love, and that's what good mothers do." The months passed slowly but meaningfully in Elena's little brick house. As Freya's belly grew, so did her sense of purpose. She still felt fear of the future, of judgment, of being alone. But under that fear, something stronger was forming. Hope. In mid-August, on a humid Tuesday morning, everything changed. Freya was in the kitchen, washing dishes after breakfast. The sunlight streamed in through the window, and the radio played soft jazz. As usual, as she reached for a plate, a sharp pain struck her stomach. Water dripped from her hands onto the floor as she gripped the sink, her breath catching. "Grandma!" she called out, her voice tight with panic. "It's time!" Elena appeared in the doorway in seconds, car keys in hand, calm and ready. "Let's go, sweetheart. It's time to meet that baby." They drove to Springfield Mercy Hospital, a wise, small clinic off the highway, with beige walls and blinking lights. Freya was terrified, but Elena never left her side. Through the endless hours of labor, Elena held her hand, wiped her forehead, and whispered, "Just breathe, honey. You're doing amazing." Then, after one final cry that felt like it came from her soul, the room filled with a different sound, a baby's first cry. The nurse placed the tiny baby on Freya's chest. He was small, pink, and crying with all his strength. He had a tuft of dark, messy hair and clenched his fist tightly, as if ready to fight the world. Freya stared at him in awe. "You're my joy," she whispered through tears. "You're my little secret." Elena leaned over, beaming. "Look at him," she said, her voice cracking. "He's strong, Just like his mama, Freya named him Sage, a name that meant both strength and wisdom, qualities she hoped he would grow into. Those first weeks were not easy. Freya barely slept. Sage cried at odd hours, and everything felt new and overwhelming. But Eleanor was always there, guiding her gently, never complaining, never judging. "We'll manage, kid," she said one night as she rocked Sage to sleep. We always do. As Sage grew, he became the light in Freya's world. By his first birthday, he was already walking. By 2, he was speaking in full sentences. His favorite word was why, and his favorite person was Grandma Elena Time, past. Freya found work at Rosie's Diner, just outside of town. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills and kept food on the table. She worked hard and saved every penny she could, hiding her tips in a tin labeled Sage's Future. Despite the early years being full of struggle, their little family found peace. Sage was 5 years old when he started asking more serious questions. One warm evening, the 3 of them sat on the porch. Elena rocked in her chair, knitting a blue scarf. Sage sat on the steps, sticky popsicle in hand, staring at the flowers in the garden. The sun was setting and the world was painted in soft gold. "Grandma," Sage asked, "how come all the kids at school have 2 sets of grandparents, but I only have you?" Elena paused, her knitting needles still. Freya, listening from the kitchen, held her breath. "Well," Elena said gently, "that's because I'm your great-grandma, your mom's grandma. As for the others, sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, big ones, and they don't always know how to say sorry." Sage tilted his head. "Were they scared of me?" Elena smiled, though her eyes glistened. "No, sweetheart, they weren't scared of you. They were scared of change, scared of being judged. But your mom, she chose you from the start, and I'm proud of her for that." Sage nodded slowly. "But you're not going anywhere, right?" "Never," Elena said. "Family is who shows up, who stays, and I'm staying." Inside, Freya wiped away tears as she stood at the kitchen sink. She had tried to be strong for years, and hearing her son wonder why he wasn't wanted reopened a wound she thought had healed. But hearing Elena's kind words reminded her that love, not blood, is what truly makes a family. Years passed. Freya's life settled into a rhythm. She worked hard every day at Rosie's Diner, a small but beloved spot on the edge of town. It wasn't fancy, but it was steady. She served coffee, washed dishes, and smiled at regular customers. Every coin she earned, tips, loose change, small bills, she saved in a tin under her bed, labeled Sage's Future. It wasn't much, but it was hope. Sage was growing up fast. By now he was a clever, curious boy who loved science and asking questions no adult could easily answer. He was the kind of kid who took apart a flashlight just to see how it worked, and then put it back together, even better. One hot afternoon, Freya was having a rough day at the diner. She was tired, the kitchen was noisy, and her feet ached. While refilling coffee at one of the booths, her hand slipped. A full pot of hot coffee spilled across a man's table, soaking his expensive suit, his papers, and even his phone. Freya gasped, panicking. I'm so sorry. I'll clean it. I'll pay for the dry cleaning. Please don't be mad." The man stood up, brushing coffee off his sleeve. He looked important, like someone who didn't belong in a small-town diner. His suit was tailored, and his expression unreadable. He didn't yell. He simply said, "I've got a meeting in an hour. You want to fix this? Bring me something to wear." Freya rushed home, heart racing. She tore through the closet until she found her late Grandpa Earl's old brown corduroy jacket. It smelled faintly of tobacco and memories. She raced back and handed it to the man. He looked at it, then laughed. A deep, genuine laugh that filled the quiet diner. "Vintage, huh?" he said, slipping it on. "You've got guts." Freya was confused, unsure if he was mocking her. "It's clean," she said softly. "It'll have to do." That man's name was Lance. Later, Freya learned he wasn't just any customer. He was a developer, a businessman, and he was planning to buy the diner to build a shopping center. Her heart dropped. The diner wasn't just a job. It was her support, her savings, her place. The next day, something unexpected happened. Lance canceled the deal. He told Rosie, the diner owner, "I won't move forward unless Freya agrees to dinner with me." Freya was shocked and suspicious. Why would someone like him want to spend time with someone like her? She didn't trust easily, especially not after Owen. But curiosity and pressure from Rosie pushed her to agree. "Fine," she said. "But dinner's here. No fancy restaurant. And don't expect anything." The following evening, Freya sat across from Lance in a booth at Rosie's. She wore her plain green t-shirt and jeans. No makeup. No effort to impress. Lance, to her surprise, looked normal too. Just slacks and a shirt. Before he could speak, she laid down her rules. "I'm a single mom. I raise my son alone. I take care of my grandmother. I don't play games. If you're looking for fun, walk away now." Lance smiled gently. "I'm not here for games, Freya. I just wanted to know the woman who gave me a corduroy jacket and spoke her mind. That doesn't happen to me often." They talked. Slowly, Freya found herself smiling, genuinely smiling, for the first time in a long time. Lance was kind, easy to talk to, and didn't try too hard. He listened more than he spoke. From that night on, Lance became a regular. Every week he showed up, sometimes with flowers from the farmer's market, sometimes with a small gift for Sage, like a science book or puzzle. He didn't push Freya. He just stayed. She noticed Sage growing fond of him too. They shared jokes, built little projects, and talked about bugs and stars. One day, Lance said something that caught Freya off guard. "I'd like to meet your son properly, and your grandma too, if that's okay." Freya hesitated. Her little world was private, fragile, but something inside her said, maybe, just maybe. It was time to open the door. "Okay," she said quietly. "Come over this weekend." Freya was nervous. She'd invited Lance to meet her family, something she hadn't done with any man in over 15 years. Her heart beat fast as she cleaned the living room, fixed her grandmother's favorite tea, and told herself to stay calm. Lance showed up on time, holding a bag of fresh apples for Elena. No suit, no briefcase, just jeans, a flannel shirt, and a warm smile. Elena welcomed him, like he'd always been part of their home, chatting with him in her usual no-nonsense way. She told stories about Freya's childhood, embarrassing ones too, while Freya blushed in the doorway. Soon, the front door banged open. Sage walked in, backpack bouncing, shoes dusty from school. He froze when he saw Lance. Freya stepped forward, trying to explain, but Lance beat her to it. "Hey, Sage, I'm Lance. Tell me, how do worms move without legs?" That one question unlocked something. Sage lit up and launched into a full explanation about how worms use tiny bristles and muscles. He pulled out a shoebox full of gadgets, bug charts, and experiments he'd made at school. For the next 40 minutes, Lance sat on the floor with Sage, asking questions, listening, and even helping him adjust a small fan Sage had wired together. It wasn't fake. It wasn't forced. Freya watched from the kitchen, stunned. Sage wasn't shy or quiet like he usually was with strangers. He was smiling. He was comfortable. Elena leaned over to Freya and whispered, "You deserve this." Freya wiped her hands nervously on a towel. "He seems nice," she said. "But I still don't get why he's here. Why me?" Elena smiled. "Maybe it's not about why. Maybe it's about what you've earned. After everything, you've built something good, even if you didn't plan to." That night, Freya's thoughts were spinning, but something had shifted. Her heart, once locked shut, had opened just a little. 6 months passed, and Lance stayed. He kept showing up with gentle patience, never pushing. Then, on a spring evening, while lilacs bloomed in Elena's garden and the sun dipped low, Lance finally spoke the words Freya didn't expect. They were sitting on the porch. Lance reached for her hand, his voice soft but sure. "Freya, I want to marry you. I want to spend my life with you and with Sage. What do you say?" Freya's breath caught. "Marriage?" She looked at him, really looked at him, the man who had quietly fit himself into her life, the man who never asked her to change, the man who saw not just her, but also her child, her grandmother, and their struggles, and stayed anyway. But fear still clung to her. She'd built a wall for so long. Could she really say yes? "Let me think about it," she said. Lance nodded, no pressure in his eyes. "Take all the time you need." Then another surprise came. 1 week later, Lance arrived at the house with a thick envelope. Inside was a full scholarship letter for Sage. Paid tuition at one of the best medical schools in the country. Freya's hands shook as she read the letter. "You did this?" she asked, stunned. "I called in a favor," Lance said. "He's brilliant, and now he has a shot." Freya ran to her bedroom and returned with the coffee tin. She dumped its contents, years of tips and savings, onto the table. "Take it," she said. "This is all I have. You made this happen." Lance pushed it back gently. "That's Sage's. I did this because I care." Freya stared at him, her heart pounding. She saw the truth in his eyes. That night, she had a custom jacket made for Lance. Navy blue, sharp like his suits, but with a corduroy collar, a nod to the jacket that started it all. When she handed it to him, his eyes softened. "What's this?" he asked. "For showing up," she whispered. "For staying. And yes, Lance, I'll marry you." He pulled her into a hug, and for the first time, Freya didn't hold back. She had finally let someone in, not because she needed saving, but because she had found someone who saw her worth and loved her for it. Years passed, and life bloomed in every corner of Freya's world. Sage grew into a brilliant young man. He followed his curiosity all the way to medical school and, with hard work, became a respected surgeon at a top hospital in Baltimore. He was only 22 when he put on his green scrubs and walked into an operating room for the first time. Not as a student, but as a doctor, saving lives. Freya had changed too. She no longer worked long shifts at Rosie's Diner. Instead, she ran the place. When the original owner retired, Freya and Lance bought it together and made it their own. Elena, now in her 90s, still sat at the head of the dining table during family meals, offering her wisdom with a tired smile and her ever-present cup of tea. It was Thanksgiving when Sage came home from the city. Freya cooked a full feast: turkey, mashed potatoes, stuffing, the works. The table was full of love, laughter, and the smell of cinnamon and gravy. Elena sat wrapped in her favorite sweater. Lance carved the turkey, and Freya smiled at Sage, proud beyond words. But during that visit, something unexpected happened. At the hospital weeks earlier, Sage had saved a woman's life after a long, difficult surgery. Her husband had been deeply moved by Sage's kindness and skill. After the operation, he shook Sage's hand and held it tightly, tears in his eyes. He asked a lot of personal questions about where Sage grew up, if his mother still lived there, what her name was. Sage didn't think much of it at first. He just figured the man was emotional. But then the calls started. Voicemails asking to meet Freya, to thank her for raising such a remarkable son. Sage hesitated. Something felt off. But eventually, just to end it, he agreed. On the day of the visit, Freya was excited. She baked cookies and set the table, unaware of who was coming. When the visitor's car pulled into the driveway, Sage stepped out to greet them. What happened next stopped everything. Freya came out of the house smiling, ready to welcome whoever had come to meet her son. But as soon as she saw them, an older couple getting out of the car, her smile faded. Her breath caught. Sage noticed. "Mom," he asked softly, "do you know them?" Tears welled up in Freya's eyes as she nodded slowly. "Sage, meet your grandparents." Paul and Ellen, Freya's parents, stood silently, their eyes full of regret. They looked older now, softer, and broken by years of distance. Ellen began to cry, and Paul struggled to speak through his emotion. "I've missed you every day," he whispered. "We were wrong. We were scared, but we were so wrong." Freya didn't say a word. Sage stood by her, protective and confused. "We're proud of him," Ellen said, looking at Sage. "He's incredible, and we're sorry we weren't part of it." Freya finally found her voice. "Sorry is a start," she said, her voice quiet but firm. "But it's not enough." Still, after a long pause, she took a breath and said, "Come in, we'll have tea." Inside the living room, Elena sat peacefully as Lance read to her. When Paul and Ellen entered, Elena opened her eyes and looked straight at them. "I waited years for this," she said, her voice sharp even in old age. You turned your backs on your daughter when she needed you most. You missed everything, but she still became someone strong. And she raised that boy into a man who saves lives. There was no anger in Elena's voice, only truth. Paul and Ellen sat down, shaken and silent. Lance watched carefully. Sage stayed close to his mother, not sure what to feel. The room was quiet. Tea was poured. The fire crackled. Nobody pretended. Things were okay, but something had shifted. Maybe it wasn't forgiveness. Not yet, but it was a beginning, a first step, a second chance.